The Sentinel Mindset.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a fantastic day today. To all our protectors, you're going to love this episode. Today, our special guest is Shawn Cooper. Now, who is Shawn? Not only has Shawn been a close friend, but he is someone that I've known in the close protection industry for a long time. He would be identified as a close protection specialist, has been doing this for years. I know firsthand he has spent thousands of dollars invested in himself to always level up his training. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Constantine. Good to be here.
Amazing, man. Look, why I'm excited today, Shawn, is because we're going to be watching a series of videos today. And really when I want to identify this, I was thinking, what am I going to call this? I'm thinking, do we call it close protection fails? And I'm thinking, look, I'm not trying to knock anybody when we're looking at this, but I think close protection may be best practices. Because what we're about to watch today are things that happened either at film festivals, red carpet events, or anything where a protection agent is with his VIP. And then how I would identify this as a fail is when someone intercepts and gets to the VIP, even if it may be just an autograph, they could have a knife on them. Mm-hmm. And that could be the end of the celebrity or the VIP. So, I don't know if you had a chance to go over the agenda, but I didn't showcase all the videos entirely because I wanted to kind of get your first reaction and kind of go from there. But before we jump into watching the videos, Shawn, tell me why is it so important that if an organization or an entity is hiring close protection, why is it so important that they're hiring someone that actually has the skill set for the job?
Well, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is the investment. So, I mean, your CEO, your A-list celebrity, there's an investment either on behalf of the corporation or the movie that they're premiering.
Right.
So you want to make sure that that person is protected, and you're also dealing with reputations of the VIP, celebrity, whatever, reputation of the security company you're representing, and who's hired you.
Right.
Because, I mean, if one of those pieces fail, it could have devastating effects for everyone else.
100%. And I think a lot of times when, especially in the industry of close protection, because usually there's not always an identifiable failure, meaning as in like, we're going to watch videos today of things where, there was breaches and nothing really catastrophic happened from that breach, but it could have. And I think that's really when things start to change. People's attention to something happens when something devastating happens, right? And I think if people realize that this could happen to me, it could be an embarrassment element. It could be a massive loss of revenue. It could be bodily injury. Like there's many, many things that can come in from this. And one of the things it's one of my gripes, Shawn, and I know it's yours as well, is people that are doing this work that don't have the qualifications to do so. Mm-hmm. So today, you're going to get a little glimpse of people that are doing this job, and there's a very good chance that they may not. I know, for example, one video that they do not have the qualifications for this type of work, but they were hired because the client doesn't know better. They just are hiring high-level security. That's all they're thinking. So this first video we're about to watch right now, to give it a little introduction, is a fan at the Toronto International Film Festival is going to rush for Angelina Jolie, and you'll see what she's going to do. And Shawn, feel free to stop and we can replay it and look at it. Okay. But let's kick it off. Let's just watch the video in its whole. All right, so for those listening right now, not watching, a fan has just jumped through a whole bunch of security and has completely bear hugged Angelina Jolie. And one of the things that we're noticing right now is that the security is just kind of standing there looking at this. The fan is talking directly to Angelina Jolie. And they're in a group of fans, okay? Now, let's go back to this again. Shawn, any takeaways here? Like, first of all, if we look at this video right now, and we look at right now what we're standing here, we're seeing Angelina Jolie and her bodyguards. The fan has not jumped in yet. The fan actually is coming right. Actually, there's the fan right there underneath the book. So she came from the back, it looks like. What's your thoughts right now, Shawn, when you're seeing this right now? When you're looking at this right now specifically, you're seeing the person jumping in.
Yeah, so
they're coming right from the back here. Look at this. Look at this. This is the fan right here, and she seems to be coming through an area that is directly behind the close. So nobody from the agent side is looking anywhere but Angelina Jolie right now. It looks like.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, all attention is on like the photos, the cardboard that they're on, because obviously you're worried about, that poking the talent in the eye, causing some kind of damage, that type of thing. So there's a lot of focus on keeping the pictures down,
Right.
To a height that, the talent can sign and whatnot.
Okay.
There's about four agents. Now, I'm guessing this talent would have her own or maybe a couple.
Yes.
I see that there's probably a couple Toronto-based people there that are doing kind of crowd control.
Right.
And even maybe it was just the way I interpreted the video, but maybe even kind of pushing the talent along.
Yes.
But again, coming back to your statement, like all the attention is on what's in front of her and her, completely being blindsided what's happening behind them, and even the area that this is taking place in.
Correct.
It's not controlled.
Right.
Like who is behind her with cameras and stuff like that? Is that her entourage, like her people?
Right.
Or is it, public?
Okay. So no, that's good. And again, for those that are looking at the screen, there's a total that I can see on the screen: 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's some more in the background. So this is an open area. Now, usually there's barricades when the people are going through. There's no barricades here.
No.
So let me ask you this, from a best practices perspective, right? What would you suggest, Shawn, would be a proper way or a best way to do this? Because I know you can rehearse for something over and over and over again, but what would be a best practice way when you're coming into an open area with a CP team with security supports?
Well, I mean, as this video has been playing, you can kind of see some of the Toronto support that are in front of the talent, which are supposed to be crowd control.
Right.
They're looking at the talent too. How can you protect the talent against something that you can't see? They should be turning their bodies around, facing the crowd, so they know where different threats, photos, the posters or whatever to get her to sign, where they're coming from.
Right.
Don't worry about her, because
Right.
she's got people around her that are going to protect her.
Well, that's a good observation, because the security supports that are usually out for these events are meant to be exactly that, supports, not the role of a bodyguard, not the role of, and I say bodyguard for those in the public listening, but the role of a close protection agent. They're supposed to stand in certain areas to make sure. But a lot of times, Shawn, I've spoken to some of them, and they're more interested with being in the camera shot than they are actually doing the job. And that is an indicator to me. Like when I look at this and be like, is there a potential cause here of having people that don't know what they're doing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big downfall, because the people that are helping out are, once they find out who might be walking the red carpet, they're very excited, and maybe, as you said, they're going to try to get into a photo, so they have like that, little memory that they can kind of take with them.
Right.
But they are in no way, shape, or form part of that protective detail.
Right.
Their responsibility is the crowd.
Yes.
So you need to turn yourself around,
Yes.
address the crowd. You can still kind of lower pictures and stuff like that, so it's at a level where she can sign. But maybe it's a confusion of responsibilities. Who is supposed to do what?
For sure.
Did her security meet with this team,
Right.
the Toronto support,
Yes.
and identify who's doing what?
Right.
Who is going to be in my immediate area?
Right.
If I need help, who do I look to that can lead me out a back door or whatever?
Well, let me ask you this, Shawn. Let's just say this woman right here, I'm going to slowly play this. She's running back here. Let's just say she has a knife in her hand right here. Bam. And look, she just goes right around and hugs her. What if she just sliced her stomach? Okay. Now, I'm going to just focus on one thing here right now. If Angelina Jolie was to have been massively wounded or killed, where would the responsibility start? Where would the responsibility start? Like,
Immediately with her team.
her team, but who hired her team?
I wouldn't doubt that those people are traveling with her full time.
Yes, but let's just say that there was an area of even local supports here.
Okay, yep,
right?
yep.
Because a lot of the times where we're going to be seeing the breakdowns here is usually the agents are assigned directly to the talent, and they come down and they're entrusting that the organizations, festival owners, providers are going to have things in place, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, when I look at this here right now, I would say, well, if I'm going deep here and I'm a lawyer, I'll be like, who hired the security?
Yep.
And what are their qualifications to be on the carpet? And look, at the end of the day, this is where it's always going to go to. I'm looking at it from a very worst case scenario. If that happens, in this specific situation, it would be the client who hired the entities to come into place as one factor. And keep in mind, Shawn, when someone sues, they're going to sue everybody.
Yes.
They're going to sue everybody. But that would be one specific piece in the mix.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, what we can't see is where did that girl come out from?
Right.
So, I mean, again, if talent is coming off of a red carpet, going into her premiere or exiting her premiere, there should be a secure environment.
Okay.
Like, as well as I do for a lot of these Toronto festivals, they're exiting back door, they're arriving through the front door. They'll do their kind of meet and greets with the crowds. They do their photos, go inside for the premiere, then they're exiting through the rear. And all these areas are usually contained.
Right.
You have your bike racks or barriers set up. There's a division between the crowd and the immediate party that is attending the festival.
Yes.
or that specific movie. So, I mean, I'd be very interested to find out where this girl found an area to sneak through.
Right.
Or maybe, she kind of looks the part, she's dressed in a black dress. Maybe she's attending the function.
Right.
Maybe she's not. Nobody challenged her.
Yes.
So she just took the opportunity.
Okay, so quick takeaways from here to succeed. I think maybe there should be more of an involved team effort of agents truly ensuring there's a perimeter check and they're observing everything, not just the talent. Yes, it's a very high-moving element. There's a lot of pieces here at play, but again, put a more focus on the crowd as well. Would have potentially avoided this if someone had, And again, these things can go really quick. They can happen really quick. So always being on that ball.
And I think one closing thought is that, your Toronto support, what's going to happen to them if there is a failure?
Okay.
They're still going to get paid.
Right.
Their company's going to pay them.
Right.
Maybe the people that hired them won't deal with them again or something like that.
Yes.
But there's no real repercussions.
Right.
Where, her personal detail, they'll probably have to have a after action or something like that. Like how did this breach happen?
Yes.
And then moving forward, how do we prevent it again?
Perfect. Okay, well said. Okay, moving on. We're going to jump into our next video. To give you a little intro here, this is Pharell, who is a music artist. Great music too. There's a PETA protest crash, okay, at one of these TIFF premieres. Now, we're picking things that happen at TIFF, specifically because we're a Toronto-based organization and a Toronto-based media group. But I want to show you this video and a little bit of self-explanatory. For those of you that are not watching this and are listening, I'll try to narrate it a little bit, and then we'll talk about this. So what you're going to watch is basically someone immediately, a protester, interrupts this TIFF premiere that Pharrell is at. All right, let's do it.
You're right. You're right.
Pharrell's
You're
collection
right.
is made
Pharrell.
from here.
Yes, you're
What?
right. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Okay. Rome wasn't made in a day.
Okay, now look, what you're going to hear now, and I'm going to stop it here. Basically, what Pharrell is going to do now is just kind of like address this whole PETA protester thing. What I want to focus on is, would you say it's safe to say that Pharrell has close protection with him?
Yes.
Okay, so from the standpoint here now, it looks like this gentleman here in the far left. Well, I don't even know who he is actually right now. Let's just go a little bit deeper. I'm trying to find out where his protection is. Oh, there it is right there. It could be this guy here.
No.
No?
He would be support. There's a gentleman that's in kind of plain clothes right there.
Okay.
Just a T-shirt.
Okay, so that could be his protection.
Yep.
Okay. And then everyone else is basically the hired security for the event.
Correct.
Okay, so when you look at this video here, it just starts off, by the way, with a protester probably just ran to the front and interrupted the show here. Is it possible to stop these kind of things, like to find out? Because protesters now have been something as of late that they're popping everywhere. I was actually at a Raptors game 2 weeks ago, and a protester just ran right inside, and it was about something. It was about horses. It wasn't even about anything else, about the treatment of horses. But they ran right into the court in the middle of the play. right? So they're popping everywhere. Is it possible to stop stuff like this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have security around the arena. They're at all four corners of the court to prevent people from getting up out of the audience and running onto the court. Did they get caught off guard? Maybe. But I think right now we're walking a delicate, or you know, maybe we're dancing a delicate dance.
Yes.
Of allowing people to have free speech.
Right.
And you know, giving them that 1 or 2 minutes before they're kind of asked to leave.
Okay.
Like in this situation here, big public setting. Pretty sure it's at like the Roy Thompson Theater.
Okay.
So, you know, I want to applaud Pharell. Like
Yes.
he tried to kind of de-escalate the situation.
Right.
He wasn't argumentative and encouraging more debate. He was
Right.
just trying to move it on.
Okay.
I think that's another reason why his personal security didn't move in.
Okay.
They did kind of come in close together in case the threat escalated.
Right.
But I think, you know, let her have her 2 minutes.
Right. So I think, Shawn, you're actually touching on a good point here. Okay, so when we're looking at these videos, we're not necessarily calling them fails. I mean, there could be fails and other things in there. Like, I mean, but the reality is, how much worse can a situation get? Like, first of all, what you're not seeing here is how many people are watching this. You can get a little glimpse here that there's people watching, but this theater is full, and there's a couple of hundred people inside here. So to your point, you know, quickly diffuse the situation. Someone says a couple of words, they're kind of carried off stage. I mean, they're not going to leave. That's the reality, right? But you're also assessing very quickly, what is my move here? Because it's going to be embarrassing for somebody, right? She could have put a big fight, right? She could have lunged towards Pharrell the whole 9 yards. But to me, also, when you're in these settings, it's safe to say that once you're on a stage somewhere as a client or VIP or principal, for the most part, you know, you're watching the area closely. Have you ever provided protection, Shawn, to a client where you have to walk them onto stage, and then what would you do at that point? Would you be nearby? Would you be sitting down? What would be the parameter checks you would do in protection?
Yeah, depending on what you're doing. If you're with a musician,
right,
and they're performing on stage, you know, you're trying to find, whether you're on stage left, stage right, some tower speakers or something like that you can hide behind,
right,
that you can keep an eye on your client, and you can see if people are, you know, using the barricades to jump up on stage, as well as coming up the stairwells.
Yes.
The stairs on like stage left or stage right.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces.
Okay.
But again, you're watching your client.
Yes.
And relationship that you have with the client. Maybe
Yes.
they'll give you a look, or they'll give you some kind of signal, like, you know.
And are you assessing the crowd too while you're
Definitely.
looking? Yes.
You know, their energy level. If people are, you know, depending on the music,
right,
you know, adrenaline can get boosted, and they
right,
might, you know, a lot of fans are trying to jump on stage, run up to the celebrity musician, hug them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've seen lots of video where security will tackle them.
Yes.
So I think a lot of performers are like, no, you know, back off.
Right.
This is a fan.
Yes.
I need my fans to make my sales.
Okay.
So it's, you know, all coming down to, you know, brand.
Yes.
It's all coming down to monetary factors.
Right. Right.
So I think in this case here, everything was performed well.
Right.
You know, they're probably assessing the situation. Like we've had, you know, glitter bombers in the past,
yes,
or,
yes,
you know, people that throw red liquid. You know, maybe they're assessing for that because, you know, Pharrell is, you know, I think some of his clothing or whatever has fur, whatever.
Yes,
so
yes.
that's why PETA's involved. So yeah, like maybe that was on their minds. That
Okay.
didn't happen.
Yes.
Okay, we'll give this lady 2 minutes, and then we'll take her out. You know,
Okay.
she wouldn't have been allowed back in the auditorium. She would
Right.
have been escorted and out.
Yes.
But it's an interesting piece because I don't know if this is a chargeable offense for disturbing the peace.
Right.
You know, people are paying good money to attend this premiere.
Right.
And now we have to listen to this person for a couple of minutes or whatever.
Well, look, the other thing I'll just add to what you're saying, Shawn, is that, you know, you're right. When you're observing the crowd, you're observing your behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is someone looking a little bit antsy right now, a little bit nervous? I mean, I can tell you, if I'm going up to do a speech to a crowd, I get nervous. This person is probably getting extremely nervous or angry, some sort of body language element. So I think if you are, you know, paying close to your client and also to the crowds as well, you might be able to pick something. Of course, she has a sign. Where did that sign come from? I mean, the sign looks folded, so maybe she just had it in her purse and then she opened it up, right? At the end of the day, you're looking for also little things that could happen. The reality is that's part of assessments, right? You know, we knew when we provided our services to many film studios during TIFF that there could be protests that could be happening. We had contingency plans around that. But if you didn't have that, then you're obviously exposing yourself at that present moment to a situation happening. And then how do you react around that?
And I mean, coming back to this situation. So, I mean, you know, Pharrell's personal security is only interested in Pharrell.
Right.
You know, the hired local support, whether they're hired in addition to the protector,
right,
or if they're there for the theater, but then you also have ushers.
Yes.
So it is unusual behavior for somebody to stand up from their seat and proceed forward towards the stage.
Right.
So that should have been the first flag that somebody, you know, maybe even just got in front of the stage.
Right.
To prevent her from hopping up or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think for this theater, it's a little bit of a fail that maybe they didn't discuss with their staff what measures they're going to take if somebody
Right.
does approach the stage.
Right.
You know, too many times we plan for success.
Right.
We don't even think about the possible failures.
Right.
So that's where the protection agent needs to communicate to these teams.
Yes.
Like, hey, you know, my client has received death threats or
Right.
whatever.
Yes.
You know, these are the contingencies that we need to worry about.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. 100%. And I'd probably say it's safe to say that, you know, PETA, have done this before, you know, to other cities, right? Whenever they see them coming in there. So that's where a good advance can kind of minimize, also give a good opportunity to, you know, be proactive. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to hit one more clip here right now before we get to the final one. So for those of you who are fans of Spider-Man, this is Tom Holland, okay? And that is Zendaya, his girlfriend. And what you're going to watch right now is a video of Tom Holland and Zendaya leaving their Escalade, coming to maybe a premiere, maybe a restaurant. Who knows what happens? There's a lot of people when they come through. They're coming with their protection team. And suddenly, Tom loses Zendaya. At least I say loses because she's signing autographs. He doesn't realize this. But I want to show you guys what ends up happening. Let's jump into this.
After
All right.
the pair exit their car, they immediately...
So we have him exiting the vehicle right now. They're walking with someone that seems to be their protector. He's gone with Tom, and Zendaya's behind right now. Now, Tom is like, whoa, where's my girl? He rips through the crowd, rips some signs and pens, and now he basically takes her hand, and he pulls her through, and they go into this, you know, establishment. Shawn, thoughts on this, first of all? Again, we're going to go right here. Here's them leaving the vehicle right now. They're leaving the vehicle. I'm going to pull this in slow-mo here, okay? This person that's standing right in front of Tom in the green jacket, that's a bodyguard.
Yep, safe to say.
Okay. So he walks, his eyes are on Tom, and if Tom is his principal, his VIP, that's all he's really doing. He's just moving here. Now, this next person was Zendaya. I'm curious who her bodyguard is.
Yeah. It doesn't look like she has one exiting the vehicle unless, you know, her security was already at the venue. Like there's this gentleman in the gray suit.
Right.
He comes from nowhere. He could be a manager for the venue that they're going to. He could
Right.
be security. We don't know.
Right.
But as an agent, it's very hard to look after.
Two people.
Correct.
Right.
I
And by the way, clients sometimes try to
Yep.
say, I just need one, for example. But film studios usually would assign two, but you're right. It usually comes down to costs a lot of times.
Yeah. And I mean, if something happens, who do you go with?
Right.
If there's an emergency situation that you have to deal with,
Right.
and your two clients are separated, you know, you can grab one and put them into a green room or a safe area and then come back for the second. Like, you know, it's very hard to deal with as a solo operator.
Right.
And again, I mean, we're looking at the crowd. There's what looks to be security or some sort of, you know, personnel trying to, you know, block crowds and stuff like that. They're not facing the crowds. They're
Right.
facing inwards so they can see talent walk by or whatever they're thinking.
Now, if this guy was the only agent assigned to the two, which I don't think it is, I honestly don't think it is. But if he was, look what he's done right now. He's put his back right now completely to Tom now. So now Tom is exposed.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And then now Tom sees all this and he's like, hell no. And that's when he just completely, he actually goes beyond, and he's probably pissed off right now as well at this present moment. Right?
Yeah,
So,
because I mean, she was swarmed.
Right.
You see from kind of like my left, you see the people come in on her. When they're exiting the vehicle, there's an older gentleman with a beard and ball cap. He doesn't even look like he's behind the barricades. This gentleman's standing here.
right.
So, I mean, who is he? Is he the driver?
Right.
So, I mean, again, the failure to secure the drop-off point.
Yes.
So, there should have been barricades.
Security.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And this is kind of like, again, when you're looking at this as a whole, things could have gone terribly wrong here. They could have. Obviously, for the most part, things are not going to go this way. But you have to, as an agent, as a protector, you have to look at things from a worst case scenario, because they could very quickly go there.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, there's probably many people in that crowd that aren't really fans. Again, they're just looking at the monetary gain of getting a signature on a picture.
Right.
And then they can sell it, or maybe they've, been requested to get this person's signature, and
Right.
they're going to be paid so much for that signature.
Right.
So they're not worried about, insulting the person or whatever. Their mission is to get that signature.
Right.
If they have to be rude, if they have to be obnoxious,
Right.
if they have to kind of force their arm through the crowd
Right.
to get the picture up in front of her face,
Yes.
they'll do it.
Okay, now, Shawn, for those that are listening right now, and they might be thinking like, okay, maybe what are these guys talking about? Like, how is it possible to control a situation? So let's talk about what typically happens. Shawn, you've looked after a couple of celebrities this past film festival. A celebrity doesn't just randomly show up and go somewhere. I mean, it could happen.
Yeah.
They could just say, I want to go here. But for the most part, they're on a very tight schedule. And that schedule is provided to the agent.
Correct.
And they'll be like, okay, this one's going to go to Scotiabank Arena. Then they're going to go to Stebo Wine Bar Restaurant. Then they're going to go to a press junket at the Soho House. So typically when you get all that information, for the people listening, talk about what an advance would entail, right? And usually, from what I understand, the advances can happen anywhere between a day to 2 days before the actual event's happening.
Yep.
So walk people through that are listening to this, how an advance works and why an advance can potentially limit the liability, I guess, or the situation happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, the advance is just to build your knowledge base on the location or area that you're working in, because, maybe you're not local, maybe you've been flown in and you're supporting talent, whatever. So you're getting yourself familiar with, landmarks, with routes, all that stuff. You're making meetings with, you're going to a restaurant, you're making a meeting appointment with that restaurant manager. You're introducing yourself. You're going to let them know that you're bringing in a high profile client, maybe even as far as going into table selection. You don't want anything near a front window. You don't want anything near a high traffic area like a washroom, that type of thing. Where's a secondary exit? Can I go through the kitchen to get out a back door? So you're discussing these things with the manager, whether it's restaurant manager, hotel manager, you're attending a premiere. There's somebody in contact or in authority at these places.
Right.
You introduce yourself, make contact with them. So if your plans change, if you're delayed, if you're arriving early, you can call that person and let them know, so then they can adjust their schedule. So it's a mutual respect.
And I remember there was times when we were doing details where we were connected to the client site. You would say, I have my principal, we're leaving the theater, we're going to be arriving in exactly 2 minutes. That alerts people now at that environment, okay, expect Shawn and the VIP, they're coming through, they're getting ready. So that's like working in sequence, right? And that all comes from the planning.
Yep.
If you're planning a meeting who the general manager is going to be at the Soho House and who the contact person is, it's going to be choreographed like a musical.
You're gonna do a walkthrough from, like, using TIFF for an example, depending on the theater that you're attending. You're coming down a specific road, then you're going to make a left onto King Street, and that area is secure. That's like a fan zone kind of thing, barricades all set up. So now the talent can get out, and they can spend as much time or as little time as they want. signing autographs, taking photos, whatnot. They're in a secured environment. You're kind of looking out for their safety as far as like, they don't trip over a barricade,
Right.
or, these signs that are being flashed in front of their face to get a signature. But, you're doing that walkthrough, you're meeting people, where in the theater they're going to sit. So you know that these first 2 rows of this section of the theater is for them, so then you would want to maybe position yourself on the 3rd row if there's so then you can see, the 3rd row, which is going to be public sitting there.
Right.
So nobody can kind of reach over and do anything to talent. So it's basically, you're going from A to Z, knowing everything about that detail, timings, contact information, support staff. Like you've been introduced, you've shook hands with the people that are going to be working with you.
Yes. Okay.
That's important for you to establish.
100%. And those things will minimize fails, right? Because you're going to have more things in place. And again, you may be thinking, you might be a seasoned agent right now thinking, okay, this is common sense. No, wait a second. You would be surprised how many people are doing this job with 0 experience and just getting by pure luck. By pure luck. And
I'll just add, like, with this past TIFF, one of the talent that I was looking after, there was a request for like a golf cart. And so then, okay, now you're tossed something that you're not familiar with. Okay, who can I contact for a golf cart? The golf cart needs to be dropped off at a certain location. Somebody needs to secure the keys for that golf cart so it's not taken prior to our arrival.
Right.
And then you don't want your client to be exposed as, potentially being weak or having some kind of medical condition or whatever. So where can I now station that golf cart that's kind of out of public view, but still accessible and not too far away from where the client's going to be?
Okay.
So, and there could be multiple kind of scenarios that pop up like this that you have to be flexible and adjust.
Yeah.
Things don't always follow according to the itinerary.
Right.
Some of the interviews will get pushed up. Some may even get canceled.
Yes.
So then now what do? Do you go back to home base and wait there until the next interview? So, stuff like that. You just have to be adaptable.
Okay. No, that's good, Shawn. Last clip we're going to watch today is another situation that happened in Toronto. So first of all, every clip that we've showcased right now, except for the Zendaya and Tom Holland one, have been in Toronto. But what this should indicate to anyone listening right now is, yes, Canada has a lot of issues and problems here, and close protection in Canada is not taken as seriously as it is in the US. There are serious players that do provide this work in Canada, but it's just, as a whole, we're Canada. That's kind of usually the excuse. Now, about a week and a half ago, there was a kidnapping on a cryptocurrency financier, or CEO, very wealthy individual. Let's watch this news clip, Shawn. And I'd like to get your takeaways on this because I know you've looked after many CEOs in your job as an executive protection specialist. Curious to see your takeaways on this. And let's play the clip now.
Rush hour at this intersection in the heart of downtown Toronto. An alleged kidnapping.
I'm Dean Skirka, President and CEO at WonderFi.
The victim, Dean Skirka, the wealthy CEO of WonderFi based in Toronto. The company calls itself the largest regulated crypto trading platform in Canada, with more than $1 billion in assets. Police say suspects forced him into a vehicle and demanded money.
Skirka was taken 23 kilometers west to this park where he was dropped off more than an hour later. He was unharmed. According to a source close to the investigation, he was released after paying a ransom of $1 million.
In an email to CBC News, Skirka confirmed he is safe and that all client funds and data remain safe and were not impacted by this incident.
Harder for somebody to go to the bank and take out $1 million.
This digital forensics expert says this currency is attractive to criminals.
Because it is easy to transfer that cryptocurrency to others, and it's harder to trace.
Kidnappings for ransoms paid in cryptocurrencies have happened before. 2 years ago, attackers tortured social media entrepreneur Pharell Denzel in his Spanish home, hoping to get tens of millions of dollars in Bitcoin. In Brazil, crypto company founder Marcelo Lopez's wife was taken for the same reason.
For platforms like ours, it's all about
embracing those trends.
Skirka taken the day the company released its third quarter earnings results, showing a 153% increase compared to the same time last year, the same day the price of Bitcoin hit a new high.
The trend and the correlation seems to be pretty close to the exchange rate of Bitcoin. The vast majority of the attacks that we know about are successful.
And lower risk, he says, because the targets tend to have lighter security. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Interesting. They tend to have lighter security. Now, what I will say, Shawn, before we pick your thoughts here, is when this happened, we got a surge of requests that were coming in because now this really scared people. Now, this is an example of a tragedy happening where no one thinks it's going to happen, and it happens, and now it's like, I need to be proactive. No one's going to rob my house. No one's ever going to rob it. What are they going to rob me? I'm in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly your house gets robbed. Now you get an alarm system in place, right? So what's your initial thoughts now when you see this? And maybe we can go into like also preventative things that could have happened if he had security in place.
I mean, first off, it's a sad state that this is the new environment that we have to deal with. And this isn't specific to Toronto or Canada. I mean, this is in the US, it's in Brazil, it's, all over the world. People are looking for opportunities. I'm guessing there was a little bit of research put into this, to know this person's agenda, what they were doing downtown, were they at the office, were they at a hotel attending a function, that type of thing. So to have that intimate glimpse of what their personal life or business life is like, that shows some level of sophistication. To kidnap this person in downtown Toronto in rush hour, and I don't know if there was witnesses or not where the kidnapping actually took place. We know how hard it is to move around the city in rush hour. You go nowhere for 45 minutes. So for them to obviously make their demands in the vehicle and have this gentleman fulfill the demands and then drop him off at a park, it's pretty astonishing.
If he had security with him, right? And look, he might be thinking to himself, like every CEO might be thinking to himself, like that's in this type of business and world, what do I need security for? And look, typically speaking, I've heard many people say, if nobody knows who you are, I mean, you could be like I know billionaires, Shawn, that you would never know they're billionaires, ever. Unless you're in the public limelight and, you're someone that, I'm Jay-Z, okay, I know this guy has money, but he has teams with him all around. So some people might be thinking, no one knows who I am. I don't really need protection. However, we have people coming to us all the time that no one knows who they are and they feel they might need protection because they have money. The more people know of the work that you do, it could be an inside job. People on the inside could know, people could talk. Or it could be someone that's been following his trends, right? But it is happening more and more often. So I guess the question is, for any CEO or wealthy individual listening, is when do you start saying, I might need protection?
I think as soon as you are appointed or have a position of CEO or other senior executive, it needs to be implemented in your benefit package, whether that is determined by the board of directors or who it's determined by. It needs to be implemented because obviously if something happens to that CEO, in this case, it was great that nothing physically happened to the person. Will he have restful sleeps in the next few weeks? Probably, because I mean it's a very traumatic event for that to happen.
I mean, it's probably safe to say that he has protection now.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Given the circumstances, now you can kind of go back and say, this is what happened. How do we mitigate that? But yeah, with the protester issues, depending on their stance, like you look at Canada's top 5 banks. Each CEO has a protection team. Some of the CEOs will like their security team. Others would want them to operate at a distance. So more of a covert kind of operation, more surveillance. CEOs walking down on one side of the road, maybe you're on the other side of the road, that type of thing. But I don't think they should be, walking the streets by themselves. It's not just them that they have to think about. They're representing a company. and there's people investing in that company. You have shareholders. So if something happens to that CEO,
Yeah.
now the share price is going to plummet.
Right. Right.
So it should be something that's automatic, and then you need to have the right people.
And for sure, I think also just for those listening, because we can talk about what we think, but let's just say he did have a protection team or person with him. He would have left with that individual. The agent would have known his movements, where he's going to, even if it means him going grabbing a hot dog. He would know this, and if there was this kidnapping in place, he would have been able to potentially stop that from happening or intervene instantly, right? Again, how did this happen? I'm just thinking of the movies right now. Is he walking down, suddenly a van door opens up and he gets yanked right in? These are things that would have been prevented should he have had protection, right? And I think right now the wake up here is that, maybe if you're listening to this, maybe you should be assessing your situation. Maybe you should be asking yourself, do I need protection? And again, sometimes there's no harm in going through that process. I mean, at the end, like you said, Shawn, there's a lot of things that can connect to the decision making it happen. If you have enemies, if you have, if people truly know what you do, if you're someone that exposes your wealth and drives fancy cars and people know that you have a beautiful house in Forest Hill, you're opening up that door of potentially, okay, maybe I need to put protection in place here right now because of that. Because really the thing is, that's just one of your problems here. The other thing you got to worry about is this AI digital age right now where people can hack things, right? And then, do voice impersonations and all that. And the funny thing is, I got a call today from this crypto agency and said, hi, we're calling regarding your crypto wallet from we just want to make sure we update some information. I go, I don't have a crypto wallet. And they go, yes, you do. You have one from 8 years ago. And I'm thinking to myself, who the heck are these guys? And the phone disconnected just like that. And I started thinking to myself, were they just trying to capture my voice? Because guys, you can go to the Sentinel Mindset and there's tons of my voice all over that place. You can kind of recreate it. But in my mind, we're living in that kind of world right now where anything is possible. So the purpose of all this, ladies and gentlemen, is to give you more of a opportunity to prepare. If you're a client, to maybe solicit that service that you may require. If you're an actual client that's hiring agencies to do the work, make sure they're a company that truly has a skill set and an expertise in this type of work, because you may be hiring an agency that will create more risk and liability for you. Shawn, any closing words to anything that we've seen today? Any words of wisdom?
From what I've seen in Toronto, I think attention needs to be paid to these people who call themselves protectors or are entering the world of executive protection or close protection. Many people will depend on the company providing training for them. If this is something that you're truly passionate, you should be seeking out your own training.
Right.
And, there's a multitude of different institutions out there, most in the US, that are very reputable. You can make contact with, many individuals and ask them about their training program, whatever. Depending on what you want to specialize in, there's, a lot of area there. The other thing is don't fool yourself. You have a very important position of protecting a CEO or celebrity, whatever. You need to back that up to be the best that you can be, whether it's, physical, whether you're on top of current trends, new threats that are emerging, anything like that. I see so many people operate almost on autopilot. Nothing's happened.
Right.
Nothing will happen. We're in Toronto.
Right.
Well, this is evidence that something can happen. We have a lot of gunplay in the city right now.
Yes.
And interestingly, when this occurred, there was another incident in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where another cryptocurrency person was assassinated at an airport. He had returned from a vacation with family. Now, a little bit different. He was involved with one of the largest crime rings in Brazil.
Right.
So, and he had threatened to kind of go public and expose, the key players.
Yes.
But this is the world that we're operating in right now.
That's it, man. That's it.
You need to prepare yourself as best as possible. If this is the environment that you want to go into, you have to know that it's not a 9-to-5 job. There's going to be times that, you're going to have to work on Christmas or on your birthday or whatever. There's going to be stuff that you can't talk about.
Right.
Because it's confidential. Maybe you've signed a NDA.
Yes.
Yeah, people, I think we need to wake up.
Okay.
We're not in the same environment that we were 10 years ago.
Right. Well, look, Shawn, I want to thank you, man, for coming down today and providing, your, expertise on a lot of the stuff that we saw. A lot of the stuff that you do on a regular basis and people do in this world. Again, usually it's masked and not much people are aware, but the purpose of this education here is for people to understand there is better ways to do things and no two situations are the same. So things are always going to evolve. Shawn, we're going to be having more of these and I'm hoping you can come down and do more of this play-by-play for us.
Anytime.
All right, everyone, have a fantastic day. And for those of you that are looking to enter the world of executive protection / close protection, there is an ample amount of information and resources you can find online. But if you really want to get deep and you want to get more clarification or advice, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. Stay safe, everyone. Until the next, take care. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on The Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative support, Jaslene Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.